As you learn about the narcissistic pattern, it's also wise to reflect on the much healthier alternatives. Now, below you're going to find a link to my new extensive course called Ready, Set, Connect. It addresses both the mindset and the skills involved in gratifying relationships, and I hope you'll find it to be quite therapeutic. Naturally, as you might imagine, my understanding of the whole field of narcissism began at an academic level. Both in my undergraduate and in my graduate studies, we did a lot of work in understanding and breaking down the diagnostic codes about why people do the things that they do. And when we go to academia and ask what it says about the topic of narcissism, there are very strong identifiers that we zero in on. Identifiers like pathological self-absorption or an inflated ego, a sense of entitlement, false confidence, as illustrated by living behind a false front, impaired empathy, or a willingness to exploit other people, prone to exaggerated emotions, both positive, they either love you, or negative, they may hate you, or the need to feel superior, etc. Now, one of the advantages of getting into the real world that the counseling office represents is I would take that academic understanding of narcissism and realize there is so much more going on than what we might read about in a textbook. Now, I want you to begin thinking, why is it that you feel so uncomfortable around people that come at you with that control and all? Are they really narcissists? And frankly, you need to know what else to look for that would confirm that indeed that's what we're dealing with, because knowledge is power, and as you're aware of what you're dealing with, then you can make the proper kind of adjustments. Now, what I want to do is I want to talk with you about what I would consider to be off-label patterns that reveal narcissism. Now, I have 15 different indicators here, so that will give you an idea of exactly how extensive this can be. And as I go through this, I want you to kind of keep a little checklist in your mind. And actually what I'll do is I'll put an article underneath, a link to an article underneath here so that you can read it on our website. But here goes. Let's see if we can understand what some of the off-label identifiers of narcissism are, and you can be the determiner to see if this is something that you can relate to. For example, number one, narcissists can be very inclined towards criticism, which is part of their attitude of superiority over individuals. They have a gift of being able to find out what's wrong about you. Or number two, narcissists can be laser focused on you. By that I mean they can micromanage you. They can watch you very carefully to determine if you're doing whatever is necessary to make them feel better in the moment. They want to zero in on how you're supposed to look or feel, or what kind of opinions you should have, how you think. And you're over there thinking, why do you care so much about my side of the street? What about your side of the street? But they focus heavily outwardly. They're not introspective. They're outer in their way of thinking. A third indicator is there's only one opinion in the world that really matters, and guess whose opinion that one is? They'll invalidate you very willingly and very readily. A fourth life pattern that goes along with narcissism is what we refer to as splitting. And when we say splitting, we mean that there can be a strong all or nothing, black or white kind of a mindset that they bring. You and I are in agreement with each other, for example, or if not, I hate you. I'll idealize you and think you're the most wonderful person that ever came along. And then there's a demonizing. I can't stand the very sight of you. You're my best friend. You're my sworn enemy. You're on the team. You're not on the team. And they have that all or nothing mentality, and you realize there's no nuance. There's no middle ground. They don't know how to deal with complexity or diversity. That's something that's just very uncomfortable for them. A fifth pattern that's very common, that's off-label, is that simple suggestions can create oddly defensive and accusing kinds of reactions. For example, you might say, hey, you might try this instead of this. And instead of them saying, oh, okay, they can go off with this real strong defensiveness, like, why are you trying to tell me what to do? And no, the reason I did this. And it's like, I'm just making a simple suggestion. You don't have to do what I tell you to do. But they can be very thin-skinned in a very odd kind of way over minutia. A sixth pattern that's part of the narcissism is there's self-delusion about self-delusion that inhibits adult, hey, let's learn from one another conversations. Now, when I say self-delusions, it's like, I don't need to hear from you. I don't need to hear from anybody. And so when you say, hey, let's just talk, and I've got some ideas, I know you do too, the delusion is you just need to listen to me. And like I say, if I need an opinion from you, I'll ask you for it. But in the meantime, haven't you got the memo? I'm the only one in the room that matters. A seventh indicator is they can hijack conversations constantly. Now, from time to time, when somebody tells you something, you'll respond with a me too reaction. You know, they may say, I went to an event, and you say, oh, I did something similar to that last week. But you'll notice that narcissists go way beyond that. It's like you may be talking about something that's very important to you, and as you're into the conversation, you realize that that person just took whatever you said, and they start talking about their favorite topics or what they're interested in, and you realize they do this a lot. They don't let me have a conversation. They just make it all about themselves, and they think it's perfectly normal. They think that actually is empathizing when, in fact, no, it's shoving you aside. I'm the only one here that's important, don't you know? An eighth pattern that's an off-label indicator of narcissism is that they can have a chameleon-like engagement with people. If they're with a certain group over here, they'll be like them. If they're with people over here, they'll be like them. And many times there are gross contradictions. And it's like, well, I thought you said you don't like this here, and over here you're saying you're in favor of it. So which one is it? And it's like, they won't say this, but it's like, well, I'm a chameleon. I just flow with whatever's there because I have to have people like me, don't you know? A ninth indicator is they're hardly ever curious about you unless A, they want something from you, or B, they're in a fault-finding mode. Then they might ask you some questions, but it's like they truly are not interested in you because, you see, they diminish you very heavily in their minds. And so the only thing they're interested in is maybe gathering facts, which will be used against you later on. How about number 10? And that is they like for you to filter your relationships with others through them. Many times you might hear them say things like, well, why would you want to spend time with that person? Or, oh yeah, you have a loyalty to that individual. Do you know how many things that they've done that have just been absolutely wrong? I mean, you're going to wreck your life if you're with that person. And so they can do a lot of putting down of other individuals. It's like, look, you just need to zero in with me. And many narcissists will cut you off from your friends or family members, or it may be that they'll take certain people inside the family, whether it's kids or other individuals, and say, these people belong to me, they don't belong to anyone else. And in that way, they like to be the gatekeeper of your relationships. An 11th off-label indicator is they can often be very impressed by someone else's power or accomplishment or their prestige or their beauty or whatever positive they bring to the equation, and they want to sidle up next to it. Of course, it's part of their envy, but it's their way of saying, I need to be associated with the highest and the best. I don't want to just be an average person. That almost would seem like an insult if you were to say that to them. A 12th off-label indicator of narcissism is they offer lots of excuses for their own personal problems, and it's always someone else's fault. If there's a breakup in a relationship, if there's a project that didn't go well, or if a mistake or just something was forgotten, it's always someone else, and they're constantly the victim of other individuals' inappropriate actions with them. A 13th indicator is they're not known for being patient. There's a constant undertow of irritability and agitation, And as a result, when you go counter to them, you are going to pick up on their irritability, on their impatience, and that's part of that emotional dysregulation that's so easy and common with them. Number 14, they're very willing to betray a friend or an ally if it means that they get to move ahead. So it's like somebody may say, well, I know you're friends with this person, but I was talking about this. It's like, well, we're not that close. And they want to sidle up with other individuals. And if they have to shove their grandmother off to the side in order to get ahead, yeah, I'm willing to do that. That's how they think. Or a 15th indicator. And that is they can operate in extremes with time management. Now, what I mean by that is sometimes they can be rigidly insistent that things have to be done in an exacting kind of a way, or they can go to the other extreme and they can be incredibly unreliable, constantly late, and you just never know if they're going to do whatever they say they're going to do. So the exaggeration's there. Now, I'm stopping at 15. I could actually add more, but perhaps now you can recognize some people will ask, why do we have to educate ourselves so much on this topic of narcissism? And just based on these 15 illustrations that I've given you, my answer is narcissism is not something that just exists strictly in academic textbooks. It's something that happens at a real-time level. It's far-reaching, it's very broad, and it impacts many people in a disruptive kind of a way. Now, the good news is this. You can commit to being on Team Healthy. That's what we stand for here on our Surviving Narcissism channel. Somebody, and I hope that would be you, I hope it would be me, needs to stand up and say, well, why don't we stand for love? Why don't we stand for respect, respecting yourself and respecting other individuals? Let's stand for good coordination and healthy conflict resolution. Let's stand for balance and reliability and care and honor. My thing with all of that is, sign me up. I'm hoping you're going to be the one that says, I want to be someone who gets it. I want to be a positive difference maker. Knowing what you're dealing with can be a springboard toward the healthy alternative. Want to join me in that? Now, I hope the videos such as this can give you some good insight about what you're really living with and dealing with. If you've not already hit the subscribe button, I would encourage you to do so and hit the little notification bell that comes along with it, and we'll keep more videos coming in your direction. Many times it prompts you to think, I could use some therapy to help have someone help me sift this out. And if that's a need, we have a sponsor, and I'm very pleased to be associated with the BetterHelp people. There's a link below that would take you to their website, and you can choose from licensed professional therapists that can help you out with that very thing. And so if that's a need, I would strongly encourage that you take advantage of that. Also, I have my courses, and they're meant to be a very therapeutic kind of endeavor or project that you would get yourself into. We have 3 now. Ready, Set, Connect, about handling things in a healthy way with other individuals, making good connections. This is me, about having boundaries, Free to Be, finding yourself despite the controllers, and I hope you would find those to be quite helpful and therapeutic. In addition, we have my books and other resources. Knowledge is power, and as you understand all of these off-label elements that go along with narcissism, it's like, okay, I'm on to it, and I'm not going to join a person that's going to go in that direction. I'm on Team Healthy, and I have a much better path that I'm going to take. And when you do, you become an influencer, you become a difference maker, and I'm hoping it allows you to park at your place of peace.